am a Pete Primeau fan.
Thank you for having me.
Your fans are like,
what an honor to be here, Pete. You're a legend. You're a rock star.
I'm a legend in my own mind, said my wife.
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
I'm Mr. Selling from the Heart. What's this guy, Larry Levine, going to teach me about selling from the heart?
You are one of the most generous and authentic people around. And I think that's why you and your show are so attractive to people.
Welcome to the Pete Primeau Show. It is episode 212, and we're here to kick off our book launch for Miles and Miles of Retail Selling Greatness. And I say our because I have all the contributors that contributed to the show with us today, to the book, who actually wrote chapters and sometimes multiple chapters in our book. But let's get the bills paid. If you haven't read my book, Sell a Million, what are you waiting for? 101 tips for furniture and mattress store owners to sell another $1 million or more this year. This is actually a marketing book and a business book. This is what we're talking about today. Miles and miles of retail selling greatness, how to sell more mattresses this year. It's on Amazon. It is live right now. And my friend Chris Tahaney shared with me that it's like a number 3 position. So let's get it up to number 1, guys. So thank you, everybody who has already bought the book and who will buy the book while they're watching this. And I'd like to thank my friends at the Mattress Industry Network Group, Steve and Greg. Thank you for sponsoring the show. If you want to learn how to build, market, and succeed in the mattress business, this is the place for you. I mean, it is absolutely free. It's a Facebook group. I think we're over 2,400 people right now. Everybody's in here, from sales pros that work the retail floor to owners of manufacturing companies, to VPs of sales, to sales reps, to store owners. Everybody's in here. So come on in, and I check in a couple times a week. Thank you guys for everything you do at the Mattress Industry Network Group. And without further ado, let's bring on everybody. Mark Klingenberg, Chris Tahaney, Scott Vaughn, Steve Carnes, Brent Batterman, Justin Trumbo, a.k.a. The Ghost, Jeff Giannakovo, and Randy Thompson. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome.
So
Glad to
thank
be
you.
here.
Good to be here.
Thank you,
Pete.
for,
Happy to be here, Pete. Proud of you.
thank you guys.
Congratulations, Pete.
Thank you. Thank you for contributing to the book. And when I got done with it, so I thought I was done, I asked myself one question: what's changed? And a lot of things had changed. And I felt like the book wasn't complete. And to make the book more complete, I asked each of you to write a chapter. And some of you guys actually wrote 2 chapters. Chris Tahaney and Brent Batterman wrote 2 great chapters in the book. Justin Trumbo and Steve Carnes and Jeff Giannakovo all wrote great chapters in the bonus section, which I would say, if you like to do things backwards, do the bonus section first and read it, and then read the rest of the book. And the one thing that's really interesting about this book is literally it is a playbook for a sales manager or a store owner. If you ever come short of having a great idea for a sales meeting, this is it. I mean, you've got 3 years of sales meetings. So 2 years if you just take each chapter, divide it in half. Probably right at 3 years if you use all the QR codes. Doug, thank you. Doug Krinsky says just ordered it. Congratulations on the launch. Patrick Tinney, a bed for your head monster quote. That's a nod to Chris Tahaney right there. Ben McClure says, way to go, Pete. You're the best. Joseph Clay, what we've been waiting for. Thank you, Joe. And Tara Day says, congratulations, Pete. Let's go. And Jacksonville Bedding, Mattresses, and More. That has to be JR. Congrats. Let's go. And JR and Tara, thank you for everything and your support. Serenity Sleep Solutions, which is Marnie. Congratulations, Pete. Thank you for your support, Marnie. And Jerry Lecomte. Congrats, Pete. Thanks, Jerry. Jerry's been with me since 2015. The first time I published a blog in this industry, Jerry was all over it, and he's been with me ever since. So thank you, Jerry. You mean the world to me. So, Dan Cricks, now you're being overly generous, my friend, but thank you. The Ultimate Sales Book. Thank you, Dan. Dan's been around a long time. He's a business guy, a marketing guy, a business guru, and that means the world. So, yeah, I got a present last night. That's the present I got, guys. Jeff and his team put that together for me. So, Jeff, I couldn't have written this book without you. I never would have had this launch. Just so you guys know, this is Janakovo. This is all Jeff and his team. It was merely my ideas for the book. So let's get started. Scott Vaughn, you there, Scott?
Hey, Pete.
You know, I thought it was super appropriate that you wrote an article on mindset, and you love that topic because if there was a criticism that I got behind the scenes, is Pete, you talk about attitude too much, you talk about mindset too much. I don't think we can talk about it enough. I think it's everything. So thank you for writing that. And by the way, Scott, congratulations on transitioning your business to Jordan and spending all your time as a full-time coach now. So congratulations, Coach, on being the head coach at Wingo. And Scott, tell us when the next masterclass is.
So it's Jordan's birthday.
Happy birthday, Jordan.
No, that's when it is. April 13th, 14th, and 15th in Cincinnati will be our next masterclass. So
anybody in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia that have been thinking about going and you're like, oh, too far. Not too far anymore. Cincinnati's great.
It's at the airport. I mean, right by the airport. So I did that on purpose because we did Nashville last year at the airport. Everybody loved it. They flew in and got off the plane, went to class, and flew home. So that was really handy. And then Paducah's in June the 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then I've got one in Nashville we'll have in August. We haven't exactly set the dates yet. So
let's concentrate on Cincinnati, guys. Let's get there and have a big show there. And I will tell you this book will be at that masterclass. So
sure will.
It will be at the masterclass. So, Scott, if I was to ask you this question, what in your mind is the biggest hurdle to sales success for a sales pro working the retail floor? What would you say?
It's mindset. It is mindset. Every time it's the foundation of everything else. Before you get X's and O's and strategy and all that, it's your mindset because your attitude matters. And you could just had the worst customer you've ever had, or a complaint or whatever, and a new customer walks in, and your mind's got to be right. If it's still crappy, you're not going to sell anything. You're going to walk them right to the competitors. So if you've had a bad week, month, day, whatever, it doesn't. None of that matters. It's all about the next customer. So having your mindset right, winning attitude, and then you utilize the strategies in this book. This one right here. And if your attitude's good, it's going to come across that way to the customer, who's the most important person. So they want to buy from somebody they like. And if they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you. And they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And Brent Batterman says it all the time. Every time I hear him talk, he talks about, you're going to make a friend first, and then you're going to make a sale. And so that is so true, and great advice by him.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
100%. And thank you, Jordan, for buying 10 copies of the book. I would encourage every store owner, buy copies for all your salespeople. When you buy a copy for your salespeople, you're saying something very important to them. And you're saying your education matters, your proficiency matters, you matter, you're important to us. So
you know what's funny, Pete?
Yes.
We don't even have 10 salespeople.
I know.
So we got 5.
Hey, Jacob.
So, yeah, Jacob's coming. Yeah, get his water. You got to be hydrated. But Jordan's planning for the future salespeople. He wants them to have their own copy. So as we grow, they're going to get a copy of this book because it's important.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Well, you brought up Brent. So I have to say this before we get started, Brent.
Okay.
So we're in Vegas. We are in Justin Trumbo's penthouse, and everybody has spoken. And there's a rule in speaking. And the rule is, well, there's 2 rules. Never speak after lunch and never speak last, because everybody's done. And Brent Batterman, who I barely know, goes up and he takes the stage. And I got to tell you something. He lit it up. He lit it up like I couldn't even believe. And it was really clear to me that he had put hundreds of hours into this presentation. It was mind-blowing. And it was so good that he had everybody there leaning into him. And that's very rare that the last speaker commands that much attention. So, Brent, thank you for being here. And thank you for writing 2 chapters.
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, it was an honor to speak in Vegas with such amazing and talented people like y'all on this call here. And there's a reason I was last. Justin knew that I'm kind of long-winded, so he put me last so he could easily kick me off the stage and not interfere with the day, for sure.
You have a background that's so interesting, super heavy in sales and in sales management. And when you're looking at sales pros and what it takes for them to elevate to the next level, what are those things that you think about sales pros need to do to kind of elevate their game to be the best that they can be?
Well, it's funny, reading the book, and again, it's so cool to be on here. I'm kind of like, I don't even know where to go with so many great things to say. But as Scott was talking about, mental attitude is a big part of it. But I also think there's, having a sports background that I have. And I think there's so many similarities when it comes to sports and being professional sales associate on the sales floor. And what I mean by that is, if you think about a great athlete, what do? They plan, they prep, their heart is into it. They're mentally focused. And the pregame, I think, is just as important as getting to the game. And I think it's practice. I mean, talk about practice. And how many of us, I saw one of our friends here had the Eagles sign in the back of their office there. Imagine if we found out the Eagles lost the Super Bowl and we found out they didn't practice. We'd all, as fans, we'd be so disappointed. And we're like, how could you do that? Why would you not practice? And I think a lot of it, we're talking about what does it have to do with athletes. we all have that opportunity to practice. And right here, because the people on this call gave all of the mattress industry, the entire mattress industry, a playbook to practice and to craft and hone in their skills to give the customer the best experience. And the best way to do that is pre-game. Maybe it's taking a chapter a week or a chapter a month. And what I love about this book and the way it was designed and it came out is you don't have to sit there and read the entire book. You can pick it up, read it today, and immediately apply something to or with your next customer that you meet on the sales floor. So I love it. It's about practicing, and it's simple sales tools that you can immediately apply with the next customer to make a positive, immediate impact to your business.
So one of the interesting conversations that me and you had, Brent, you shared with me a statistic about how much retail salespeople practice. Can you share that with the group?
Yes, I believe I'm going to get as close to it, but it's like 2 to 4% they actually practice, and it's the exact opposite for a professional athlete. You know, if you look at a professional athlete, someone going to the Olympics, professional football players, they practice 90, 95, 96% of the time, and they only play 2 to 4%. Unfortunately, when it comes to sales and retail sales associates, I know, especially in the mattress industry, not saying anybody on this call, but I've seen where they only practice maybe 4% of the time, and they play or present 95% of the time. And we've always heard the statement, don't practice with your paycheck. But unfortunately, I feel sometimes a lot of us in our industry do that. And I always think of how interesting would it be if we take a book like this with amazing authors and contributors like this book has, and you just take it and you practice. Maybe you're calling up here on the phone, or maybe you're practicing in the mirror, but being practice prepared for that next customer and to be able to apply that, I think, make a huge impact to your business.
That is huge, Brent. Don't practice with your paycheck. And so I've got a few people out there, and I can hear you because you've said it to me hundreds of times. You know, role playing sucks. I don't want to role play. Well, you know, your role playing is as good as you make it, but we're not talking just about role playing. We're talking about practicing. So Brent, I see. Brent's like, put me in, coach.
Well, it is. And I really appreciate your kind words. And I had such a great time in Vegas presenting with y'all. And I've done that presentation multiple times. I'm not naturally a good speaker. And I've actually think it's kind of a benefit now. I used to frustrate me and seeing like people like someone who I look up to, Stephen Ferguson, who can just get up and present. And it makes me so angry because I get so jealous because he can just get up and present. I have to practice, but over time, it's actually became a strength of mine because I have to practice that presentation that I've done hundreds of times before Vegas. I still practice. I was up at 6 in the morning, went for my run, and then from 7 to 8, I practiced, and I was ready for it. So I think practice is a big part of it. If regardless is a presentation or your sales presentation, getting warmed up, practice, and being mentally ready and focused for the day can only help you. I've never heard anybody that says, man, Chris, you know the problem that I had today during President's Day sale? I was too prepared, and I practiced, and I was warmed up. I was too prepared for the day. Says nobody.
100%.
Hey, Pete, I've got to jump in here, if that's all right.
Absolutely, Jeff.
So, I mean, we touched on my incredible Philadelphia Eagles picking up their Super Bowl win. On this topic of practice, don't practice with your paycheck. I want to add to that. That's 100% right. And don't practice on your paying customers. Okay, your customers come to you. They're giving you the honor of their time and your money and their money, which can be your money. Don't practice on them. I wrote about that. That's part of my chapter. But I want to go back to the Super Bowl win. And I know, Pete, you're an Ohio guy, and I know you love the Kelsey boys. But you know what? This player earned this moniker when Taylor Swift's boyfriend was caught walking off the field at halftime in a pristine, clean uniform, catching 0 balls. You knew, if you know the game of football and you know the position of tight end, you know 100% Taylor Swift's boyfriend wasn't doing his job in the first half of that football game. Walking off the field in the Super Bowl, he walked off in a clean uniform as a tight end with no catches, which means He should have been blocking, should have been throwing blocks, should have been getting in the way, should have been sweating, should have been getting dirty. He chose not to show up in that game. My question to anybody listening is, are you choosing in your day to not show up for your customer, for your teammates, for your store, for your customers? Are you walking off the field at the end of the day with a clean uniform or a dirty uniform? Mm. And so Travis Kelce earns a little bit of my ire in calling him Taylor Swift's boyfriend, because that first half of football, he had no catches. He had nothing. There's actually tape of him literally standing at a still in the middle of the game as his quarterback runs for his life.
So not to digress completely, but when I played football, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, we would judge each other by two different aspects. One is, how dirty is the front? And then, God help us if this happened, if you're dirty in the back. If you're dirty in the back, you're getting planted, and that's really, really a bad thing. So,
yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Jeff.
Yeah, we all have a choice in our day to choose how we show up, which is really the point of my little diatribe. I'm still on that high because it was such a dominant performance. And that's another lesson. How dominant do you want to be in your day? Do you make an active choice to simply make a sale, or do you make an active choice to win the business, win the customer, and win them for life? And, Pete, your book really drives that home. It's an aggregate of all those miles on the road, all those times in the stores, all of your experience, which to give you a pat on the back, you get to carry the title of being on all sides of this business. And that's special. And when you speak, people ought to listen, because you've been there, you've been in their shoes. It's not hypothetical. And I think who we listen to is important, because it ultimately determines our success. So I'm proud to stand alongside you in this one and everybody else. And I'll just wrap up with fly, Eagles, fly.
I knew JR would love that. And I knew you couldn't help that. So years ago, I am sitting with a top 100, and he said, Pete, you're the second best sales trainer I've ever met. And I said, oh yeah? Well, who's the first best? And I thought he was going to say Nick Marcos. And then I was just going to go 2 feet down his throat. I love Nick. He's my partner, but he said a name I didn't know. Mark Klingenberg. He is hands down the best trainer we've ever seen. Pete, we have had, you name it, we have a who's who of manufacturers, not just mattress manufacturers. We're talking about the best of the best in the furniture world. He is hands down the best. And the name was Mark Klingenberg. And Mark Klingenberg is the only person that I know of, at least that I know of personally, that sold over 1,000 smart beds at retail. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of our business. So Mark, thank you for writing your chapter. And when it comes to smart beds, what would be a tip or two to help a retail salesperson?
Well, honestly, first of all, thank you for having me, and no pressure. Nothing that hasn't been said here already. It's because smart bed sales are still a very significant portion of mattress production, and the demand is there. It takes preparation. It's a demo-heavy product. Okay. You have to lead the customer. You have to be the pilot in the plane. You have to fly the plane, and give a very competent and concise demonstration of what the product can do for you. And that just takes preparation. Exactly what we've been talking about here. You can do it in the form of practicing yourself. You can practice with others. One of my favorite reps ever would just walk into the store, and he plopped down on one of our adjustable support mattresses, and he would hand it to the remote to the salesperson. No one was in the store. Obviously, we're not disrupting anything, and he would say, "Sell me this bed." And man, beads of sweat would come, and you could tell the level of preparation. Now there were some, man, they were chomping at the bit. They absolutely loved that opportunity, and you could tell the amount of preparation that went into this presentation. You know me, Pete. One of the things I talk about the fact is that RSAs, sales pros, the only thing we produce personally, the only thing we're responsible to produce is our presentation. Customers give us money for product, but our presentation is our product. That being the case, hone it, work on it. And I can tell you there's no shortcuts. You can see that in my short chapter. There's no shortcuts. It's preparation, it's being ready for that up, it's attitude, it's mental preparation and acuity in your ability to communicate to the customer, the whole discovery process, all of that as well. But it is exactly what we've been discussing here.
And, thank you for that, Mark. Brent, this is exactly what we were talking about when me and you had the conversation. It's not just about role playing. It's about sell me this. We're two salespeople, or we're a store owner and a salesperson, or a store manager and a salesperson. Nobody in the store. Sell me this. And you'll find out just how comfortable or uncomfortable they are. And then we know where there's work to be done. Right, my friend?
100%. I also like I like practicing. I love going to the store and role play, or however you want to call it, practice when you're in the store. Cause I also learn. Everybody always can add something to your presentation. And I say, steal it. Like you're right. Build your presentation. That's what you go front foot with the customer with. And you should steal as much as you possibly can so you can give the best presentation to that customer.
That's awesome. Steve Carnes, I've kept you waiting for a while, my friend.
I was just going to add, we talked about practicing, and two things have happened. Actually, three things have happened to me in the last, since Vegas. And it's, I call it active and passive, right? And we've talked about what do you tell somebody new in the business? How do you get better at what you do? And the very first thing that I will say is you can be active or you can be passive. But the first thing you need to do is listen, not hear. Okay. And what's the difference between listening and hearing? Hearing is pretty easy. I mean, I'm sitting in my home right now and the wind's blowing 40 mile an hour out there and I hear the siding creaking, right? That's hearing. All right. Now, listening is a whole different level. And I think a lot of times us as presenters, as making a persuasive pitch on whatever the product is, we want to be the one doing the talking, right? But if you really sit back and not hear your customers, but listen to them, and what listening means that you have to give thought to what they're saying. Because what will happen is you'll be able to bring back to that customer a whole lot more than what they may have even said. And that's when you start gaining huge points with that customer. The other thing that I wanted to thank you about this book is that you took a picture of my office and put it right there on the cover. This is where I live, behind the windshield. I think a lot of us live behind the windshield. And, I laugh because this is my productive office. I may not be able to be on the computer when I'm on this office, but I'm listening to the podcast. I'm having conversation. As you know, Pete, we talk a lot of times when we're both on the road. That's where ideas are shared. And again, a lot of times when I hang up from our conversations, I'm thinking about what we said and how to improve it. And we talk about somebody always adds something to your presentation. They're the good ones because they were listening to what you said, and they formed thoughts about what you said.
And don't miss Steve's chapter. Starts on page 181. Your comfort selling system.
I think that's
Steve,
in the annex.
Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure. I mean, again, the desire is to help salespeople of all levels. And, when we came out, the whole program started at post-COVID, when a lot of the most experienced salespeople left this industry. They retired. And they were the pros. They were the 20% that sold 80% of our goods. And what we had coming in was a lot of rookies. And again, I went to so many meetings and I sat down and we would ask, what is it that you guys need? Well, the consumers, the retailers, the retail salespeople. And we listened and some of the answers, I always say the responses that we got were anywhere from $2.99 to $39.99, right? That's what they needed. And there was no concise point to it. And what we really did is we tried to develop a format, a system that we could take the bottom 80% of the retail salespeople and turn them into performers like the top 20. And that was the whole idea behind it. Unlike smart products where you have to really be heavy on the presentation, we boiled it down to really being two things that are required in finding a consumer the right bed, and that is finding the bed that's right for their back, and then finding the bed that's right for their pocketbook, and making that system as easy as it possibly can be. And we did it through a diagnostic system, and where you didn't have to know anything about the beds. You just had to know how to ask 3 questions. And once you got the answer to those 3 questions, you asked 2 questions, and the end was the end. You got the sale.
And I got to tell you guys, if you're curious about that, buy the book. Steve writes it in detail, and then call Steve and ask him, or call me and ask me about it. We've had a lot of success taking complete rookies and helping them really perform at much, much higher levels than we could ever expect with a very simple selling system. So, Steve, thank you for doing that. And
by the way, I just want to put the proof in the pudding, so to speak. So a year ago, 6 months ago, we were going out and we were training people on how to do this. And I do a lot of the training in the company. I go out with my reps, and because they hear the reps every month, they hear me once a year or whatever. So I go out and I help the reps. And I'm going to say the last 3 sales meetings that I'm going out to, we get to the meeting, and you know how you always have the Danish and the donuts and the coffee, and we get to the meetings, and all of a sudden the RSAs are selling us on our idea, and we just keep our mouth shut and listen to what they're saying. They're teaching us great techniques, and they are so pro this program that it just absolutely, I mean, it makes my heart get pretty big, because I mean, this is something that my whole team worked very, very hard on, and to have that kind of reaction from meeting after meeting after meeting after they've worked it, and get to learn it, just absolutely fun. And Pete, I want to tell you, this book is absolutely awesome. I think I have a couple more chapters that I need to finish, but I started my career back in the early 80s. I don't want to predate myself a little bit, but I have always had people willing to invest in me, to send me to the seminars like the Jim Estrada waterbed days way back when. I've been to see Zig Ziglar speak. I've been to the Lawhon seminars, and it validates everything you learn the whole way through your career. But again, when you're reading these chapters, you have to think about what you're reading. And I like to pause after every chapter and think about what was said in that chapter and think it through, because that's when you really start to get a ton out of this book. And it also teach it. I always said, if you want to really get good at what you do, don't just read that chapter, but try to go teach it to somebody, and you'll really get a ton out of this book.
Thank you, Steve.
Sorry, I took off.
And by the way, you can't read this book and not see Zig Ziglar and not see John F. Lawson, because I'm a product from those guys. So you see it all the way through. Sometimes I don't even remember that it was a literal, quote from them that they actually said. Chris, you have been super patient, and I got to tell you, we always hurt the ones we love. Nobody has worked harder than you, Chris Dehaney, at promoting this book. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You wrote 2 great chapters, but the one that fascinates me the most, and listen, completing the sale with sleep necessities, best practices, that is, you guys should have to pay $500 just to read that. Seriously. And you would make money if you implemented it. But do you want to be the MVP or the top writer? I want to dive into that. I want you to talk about that, because it's so important for especially a real sales pro who's working commission, who the difference between being a well-rounded, consummate sales pro and just being somebody who puts up some numbers and is somewhat sloppy in his or her selling is an incredible difference, especially when it comes to compensation. But more importantly, today we're not playing for compensation. As store owners, we are playing for 5-star online reviews. We are playing for testimonials. We are playing for referrals. And your MVP is going to get more referrals, going to get more testimonials, and is going to get more 5-star online reviews than any other way. So can you talk about that chapter a little bit, Chris?
I'd be glad to, but I can't do it before I say congratulations, Pete. I think it's pretty remarkable that after not even one full day, you're number 3 on the best-selling list for the sales book category on Amazon. I'm delighted to be part of it. I'm further delighted to be associated with all my friends on this meeting. I wouldn't be where I'm at without many of you, and thank you very much for your influence. I think what I was trying to get across in that chapter, Pete, is that sometimes, at least over the course of my career, within individual retail organizations, you have who I consider MVPs, those well-rounded people that want to not forget any element in the equation whatsoever, not make decisions on behalf of their customer and make them aware of all the solutions that are at their disposal and how to solve problems that customer in a million years probably would never have thought of without that consummate professional showing that care. And that person might not necessarily be the most applauded in their organization for whatever reason. Maybe they're not working in a high traffic store like the 15-year veteran that's got a very good relationship with the family that owns the business, and they're blessed with working in that high volume environment, and they're just consistently putting up the top line numbers. that particular RSA that takes a lot of care into that customer, more so than just turning and burning, for lack of a better term. Sometimes I've seen situations where they feel less appreciated because the leadership in that organization is not recognizing that they're bringing so much more to the table rather than just that top line turn and burn variable. So I thought it was important to shout that RSA out, that they need not feel underappreciated, that they can leverage their accomplishments to get the recognition that they rightfully deserve, and really just give them recognition that in the end of the day, just because you're a top line writer and you're at that, you're number one on that roster and top line, it does not necessarily mean that you're taking better care of the customer. I've seen the examples like that many times over the course of my career.
Yeah, I think it's a great distinction. Now, what I love is when my top writer is my MVP, right? I love to see that, and it's possible. And we're not implying that one excludes the other. That, to me, that's the home run. That's the grand slam. That's what we should all be working to achieve. JR has a question. If you had to pick one piece of advice to a small store owner on the best way to grow their business, what would it be?
And that's for me.
It's going to start with you, and it's going to go around.
That's okay. I'll take it anyway. Thank you, RJ and Tara, for your question. Happy President's Day to you. Just decide what role you want to play in your community, and not be shy about putting that message out there. There's plenty of messages. I think I might have posted in the group this morning about how deep conversations can go when it comes to sleep. It's not all about the mattress. It's about how people sleep, and it's about how people live their lives. And figure out you've already figured out that you want to be a mattress store owner. Well, explore that a little bit further. What type of recognition do you want to be recognized for in that environment? Craft that message and take that to your community very, very aggressively, and then create an external sales force, aka your customers that you have wowed and pleased when helping them solve significant life problems. Have them be your external sales force and spread that message for you.
That's a great answer, Jeff. I'm just going around. How would you answer JR's questions, Jeff?
Yeah, for me, it's in a word: marketing. You have to come up with that answer why you over all other choices available to me, including doing nothing. And that doing nothing statement is something I added to Dan Kennedy's line of why you out of all other choices, because our industry, they can do nothing for quite a while. We've all had people come in. I've had this thing for 10 years. I kept it 5 years longer. Now my back's killing me. That's nothing for about, probably in that example, 7-8 years longer than it should have been. Our marketing messages can power our businesses in ways that put us, and I'm saying us as independent retailers, far and ahead of our national chain, club, and box store competition. But yet it's the hardest thing to do as well, because it requires a commitment and consistent focus and buy-in from yourself all the way down to your delivery people and everybody in between, that you're really on this notion of creating this marketing message that answers that question, why you over every other option available to me, including doing nothing. So you've got to answer that. And once you do, the world is your oyster.
Randy, what would be your advice on that one? JR's question. Nope. No.
Okay, we there?
Ah, there you go.
All right. Chris really gave a great response. Chris and Jeff both gave great responses. I'm going to go back about 40 years when I first opened up. I thought I was a decent salesperson, but I happened to hire a guy who tripled the business in just weeks. It was amazing. So if you can, and one thing he did, he was able to get customers to send other customers in. That was the most eye-opening thing I've ever seen. in all of 40 years I've been there, marketing, sales, training, but boy, that personal connection, that the ability for one person to have such an impact with their customers is so huge. And I wish I had that talent. I don't. I'm listening here and thinking this is absolutely terrific. And let me back up, Pete. Congratulations, and we've probably known each other for about as long as anybody else here, almost 40 years. And you're just fantastic the way you're bringing these people together, these ideas, and helping each of these companies and the whole mattress industry make a difference. So you've done extremely well. But that personal connection, I'd have to say, is really one of the big keys of making things happen.
I got one, Pete, that can build off that too.
Yeah, seeing it modeled right in front of yourself, seeing somebody who's so good and gets referrals is incredibly huge. Mark, take a swing at JR's question.
Well, my best advice would be exactly what I did on the floor when I was running around on the floor in sales. I always was gravitating to the top performers. I don't care what the category was. I wasn't intimidated, and I couldn't help but think of some of the times that I would pester guys and gals that were running circles around me, and I would just observe them. There was one gentleman in particular who was just knocking it out of the park so consistently, and I just couldn't get him to talk with me until I basically pestered him enough and invited him out for lunch. And he said, okay, we'll do that. And I'll give you a half hour, bring your notebook. And I just scribbled notes for a long time. And I learned so much from him. You know, nothing's new under the sun. Look at what we're doing here. You know, this incredible assortment of wisdom and experience that are gathered right here in this podcast. It's phenomenal. Okay. Get with people that you see that are doing well. They are excelling in specifically in areas that you're weak in, and be willing to say and be willing to admit, I'm weak in that area. I'm not bringing my A game. At best, I may be bringing my C game. And open yourself up to that input. To me, that's number one. And I will tell you, though, be aware that when you do that, you're going to be challenged. And it may push you outside of your comfort level currently, which is a good thing. You know, you want to excel. And maybe you'll never get to that. You know, if somebody's playing the A game and you're at a C level, and you bring it up to B, man, you have taken great strides. And every time I've made myself vulnerable like that to somebody who I see is excelling in the area that I need to improve in, it has been greatly beneficial to me. Someone said here, you know, we're all part of the school of lifelong learning. I learn from anyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Justin.
Yeah, I think what we can do as a small business is different than what we can do as a salesperson. So the direct question was related to a small business and what they can do to improve their sales. And my advice to small business owners is to remember what a family-owned business is supposed to be in your community. So many people go and open small businesses and they think just because they own a house in a neighborhood near their business that they're a local business owner. If you think of what a local business owner does, is they're very involved in their community. I think the one linchpin for success, if you look across the United States for small businesses that are successful, they're very, very, very involved in their community. Like there's some examples on this call. If you look at Scott Vaughn with his buy a bed, give a bed, or the build a beds that he does in front of his store for the local philanthropics, or if you look at Jeff starting a podcast, all just to raise awareness about other small businesses in his community. or, you know, some of the companies I work with winning philanthropic awards and stuff like that. So I always remind business owners, just because you own a house in a neighborhood near your business does not make you a locally owned business. What makes you a locally owned business is giving back to that community, being involved in that community. If you look at the long-term success, that's what's going to give people the reason to come see you instead of the big box down the store. You always see like the memes and stuff saying, you know, Amazon doesn't support the baseball team or things like that. So I would just remind store owners, you know, what you can drive for your store is different than what the salesperson can do in an individual level when working with the customer. One has to do with the way the community views you. One has to do with the way you engage the customer when they walk in the door.
Awesome. Brent, you put your hand up. You're muted, buddy.
Sorry, rookie mistake. All right, here we go. I believe, if you're listening, a $90,000 a year idea. And I'll break it down for you. And everyone on this group, you can tell me I'm wrong, but here's what I call it. I call it the 3 business card approach. Now, I stole this from somebody else, just to let you all know. I'm not smart enough to come up with this, but if you want to increase your business today, I have an idea. It's going to cost you $25. And what you're going to go do is you're going to make sure you have plenty of business cards. After you do all those great things that you normally do by taking care of the customer, give them a great experience, finding the right mattress to help them with their sleep needs. When you're finished with writing up the receipt and walking to the door, give them 3 business cards. I just grabbed his note cards. 3 business cards. And this is what I would say to them. I would say, if you thought I did a good enough job and you thought I took care of you and you're happy with your service, I would love for you to take 3 business cards. 1, take this business card, put it between your mattress and your box spring, buy all your money and your receipt. Put that there. If you don't mind taking the other 2 business cards right here and put them in your wallet. If you're out and about and you hear any of your friends or family or coworkers saying they're not sleeping good, they hate their mattress, would you mind giving them my business card and tell them that I took care of you and I will take care of them and send them my way? Now, if you do the math on that, if your store, let's just do sells, you know, you have 100 customers that buy a mattress. Let's say you give those out and only 10% of them send them your way. What is that? $7,500, $8,500 a month times 12 is over $90,000 a month. If you only have 10 or 5% of people that actually do it, I think it's easy. You can do it today. It may cost you $25 for a box of business cards, but you can immediately make an impact to your business.
Huge. Thanks, Brent. Scott, what you got for JR?
It's RJ, actually, Pete. RJ.
RJ.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't know how you could get that mixed
That's
up when
Dallas.
his name is
I was
Vernon.
doing Dallas.
You know, how you get it mixed up when his name's Vernon. But anyway, we love RJ. We both met him at the same time in
Jr.,
Paducah.
actually.
Huh?
Rocky Jr.
Oh, Rocky Jr. Okay.
His father's name was Rocky. His father went by Rocky.
Everybody gave brilliant advice. I cannot believe Randy didn't say adjustable beds. Of course, adjustable beds. An adjustable bed under every mattress. We do not believe in box springs here. It's against my religion. That's not my tip, but that's a good one. Thanks, RJ. But my biggest advice, I love secret shopping. I shopped in Cincinnati last week. I hit just about every major and minor in Cincinnati last week. Had a ball doing it. But I think in your territory, you should shop or have somebody shop all your competition, because nobody buys at the best place they go to. Nobody buys at the second best place they go to. So you need to be the best at everything in your territory. So your customers they hear about it. All the advice everybody gave, what Brent just said is amazing, but you need to be the best. And if you're already the best, then try to be the best in the country. So tomorrow we got a big snowstorm coming. So I'm flying to Fort Lauderdale tomorrow, and I'm going to shop. And then I'm going over to Fort Myers and Naples, and I'm going to shop Wednesday and Thursday over there. So City Mattress happens to be the best I've ever seen anywhere. There's probably maybe somebody better than that, but I modeled my store after them, and we're nearly a $5 million store in a small town right here. So what they did that down there in Naples and Fort Myers is amazing. So I took a lot of what they did, and I'm very unoriginal too, Brent. Most of my ideas aren't mine. And Pete mentioned, I thought I came up with a quote, and I Googled it, and it was Zig Ziglar. A long time ago I heard it, but so I'm very unoriginal. But that idea right there is shop your competition and get better at them than everything. And so it gives you goals like, hey, I need to have a better storefront, or I need to up my merchandising game, or they're really good at this or that. And I was shopping for a client of mine up in Cincinnati, and I got a lot of tips for my client, and it helped me too. You know, I was like, oh, really? You're doing good at that. And so I took pictures, and I got permission, of course. Can I take a picture of that? Sure. And price tags and whatever. I mean, you can learn a ton off of your competition, what to do and what not to do. So both things. So that's my tip real quick. I know we're about out of time. I'll let you go on, Pete.
Well, we're going to have to go over a little bit, but thank you, Scott. Randy,
hey, you want to sum that up real quick?
Yeah,
Can I
go
sum
ahead.
it up real quick?
Yep.
So this screen that I see in front of me with all these great individuals, and I mean leaders of our industry, it's very difficult for us to prove that we're 20% better than anybody else. That's one of the hardest things in the world, to show that you're 20% better than the store down the road. But it's easy to show if you're 100% different. And the suggestions that everybody gave me, they're all first class suggestions. But always think about, how do I show it? I mean, I say write it down. All right, write down. Scott's a shopper. I do grids for my customers. This customer A, customer B, customer C, they do free delivery, they do free removal, they do whatever, free financing. And I have a grid. I know what everybody in my marketplace is going to be doing. And then I try to either be different with my offer or make sure that I'm definitely better.
Awesome. Randy, thank you for your chapter. Anybody that is waffling about whether to buy this book or not, buy the book, go to page 111, and Randy has offered you a free adjustable bed seminar from the Adjustable Bed Guru. If that's not a deal closer, I don't know what is. So thank you for that, Randy.
You're welcome. And Scott was nice enough to let me do the presentation at his last seminar, and I appreciate that, Scott.
The best for last, Mr. Trumbo, aka Justin, aka the Ghost. You there? Did he leave already?
Nope, I'm here. Sorry about that.
From specs to simplicity, the history of mattress sales, and the creation of technology selling. Talk to us about it in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Well, what happened was when I used to be a retail sales associate on the floor, and I'm sure most of you guys can kind of attest to this, we kind of came from an industry where we would stack them deep and sell them cheap. A lot of us, 15, 16 years ago, we used to get whole 53 footers of $5.99 beds. And by the end of the weekend, that whole 53 footer would be gone. And we started doing some home shows, fairs, events. And obviously those are very controlled spaces, 20 by 20 booths, 20 by 10 booths. So you really couldn't bring a lot of products. And so we would only bring our upper end products, our highest end of each category. And what we started realizing was, absent of all these other choices that our floors had, people would show up and just buy $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 beds. And you got to remember, these are people that showed up to fairs looking for funnel cakes. Like, they didn't show up looking for a mattress. These are unsolicited, unqualified buyers that are just walking by, and they're willing to invest $6, $7, $8 grand. How come when we went back to a store, you couldn't get the same results. And so my whole chapter is about the selling process that was developed pretty much at the fairs, that's then been pulled back to the stores, which a lot of people have had great success with, raising average ticket and giving an experience that I think is more relevant for today's shopper. I do want to touch on a couple other things though, really quick.
Sure.
Yeah, like Brent said, it's kind of tough to go last. So I got like this whole list of notes right here. What never ceases to amaze me in this industry is how giving everybody is. Like if you look at Scott Vaughn with his master class, I mean, Scott has a successful business. He has a successful real estate portfolio. It's not like he needs to be going out and helping share all this information, yet he takes his time to go do this 2-3 times a year. I think anybody that doesn't make it to one of his events they're crazy. Same thing with Jeff with MRT. If you look at the tools that he's providing and the services that he's providing out to the industry, back to RJ's question, if you're a small business owner, take advantage of these tools that are available. You got people like Pete that are willing to write books and then spend hours on calls to talk you through it. Brent Batterman, who's always a call away. So I would just say, back to RJ's question, use the resources that are available to you. This is one of the most giving industries that I've ever seen as related to information. Most industries are very guarded with that information. And I'll never forget, Scott was giving back to that penthouse. Scott was giving a little small piece of his master class. And I'll never forget, Nate was literally jumping up and down in the master class, like, I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm ready to run through a wall. And Scott points to the penthouse window on the 60th floor. And he's like, well, don't run through that wall. So, I'll never forget some of the experiences with you guys, just seeing the reactions from the retailers and the success when they bring it back. And so that's pretty much, trying to do my Brent Batterman. I'll end with that.
Awesome. Guys, thank you. Time got away from us, and I apologize for not giving everybody equal time, but thank you guys. This book would never have been as good as it is. It would not have as much knowledge. It would not have as much passion. It would not have as much impact as this book's going to have without you gentlemen. So thank you. And Justin, thank you for holding the book up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm holding it up. And also I wouldn't be, as the owner of Bed Tech, I should say, make it to one of Randy's adjustable base trainings.
Absolutely. And it's free if you bought the book. So guys, thank you. Go forward and sell a million. Thanks for everything you do, and appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It was wonderful having all this input, Pete. Thank you so much.
You bet.